There are timelines that burn bright, and others that fade like whispers beneath the breath of the cosmos. In one of those forgotten branches of eternity, a single decision trembled like a leaf in divine wind, and everything changed. When Goku fell, pierced by the light of self-sacrifice, his soul rose toward King Kai's realm. But in this echo of destiny, his son followed. Two hearts, father and child, training where the laughter of gods met the silence of infinity. And from that divine soil, a warrior would awaken, not of rage, but of understanding. A Gohan who would remember that power, when born from sorrow, must serve compassion, or consume all. Before we step into this alternate destiny, remember to join the journey, so our timelines may never fade into silence. For every choice echoes across eternity, and even a single breath can reshape the stars. When the smoke of battle faded, and the laughter of warriors fell into memory, the world grew quiet. Goku's sacrifice against Raditz had ended in light and sorrow, a father's final act of love, a son's first lesson in loss. The fields of earth stood still, the wind carrying the faint hum of vanished ki. And among the mourners stood a boy with trembling hands, clutching the torn edge of his father's gi, as if it still breathed warmth. Gohan did not cry immediately. Children often do not understand the gravity of death, only its silence. Yet when night came, and the stars mirrored the shimmer of distant worlds, he felt something pull within his chest, a whisper that was not grief, but calling. Somewhere beyond the mortal realm, Goku's spirit had ascended to King Kai's world to train for what was to come. But in that moment between dreams and consciousness, when souls can almost touch the divine, Gohan's spirit brushed against the edge of that realm, and for the first time, the universe noticed him. King Kai, seated upon his tiny planet beneath the arch of infinite space, sensed it, a spark unlike any he had ever felt before. Not the violent energy of Saiyan bloodlust, nor the measured balance of divine ki, but something trembling and pure, the fragile brilliance of potential untainted by pride. "He's calling to his father," the Kai murmured to the stars, not with words, but with heart. The cosmos around him stirred. The snake road stretched endlessly through golden clouds, and upon it Goku's spirit ran, unaware that another light had begun to follow him. For on Earth, that night, Gohan dreamed. He saw his father laughing, his hand extended across the void, the edges of his form fading like morning mist, and behind him stood a figure he did not know, round, blue, with eyes like kind stars. "You have his heart," said the voice in the dream, "but your light belongs to something greater." When Gohan awoke, he was no longer in his bed. The world around him was soft blue grass and a gravity so heavy it pressed his chest like guilt. He gasped, the air here hummed with divine resonance, and in front of him stood the being from his dream, smiling with ancient calm.
"Welcome, Gohan," said King Kai, folding his hands behind his back. "Seems your soul took a little detour on its way to sleep." Gohan blinked, his voice barely more than breath. "Is this heaven?" "Not quite. More like the waiting room between dreams and destiny." The Kai chuckled softly, though his tone carried depth. "You came here because you needed to, because part of you already knows the path ahead will demand more than strength. It will demand understanding." He paced slowly across the tiny planet's curve, the golden halo above his head glowing faintly. You see, your father runs along Snake Way as we speak, training to protect your world. But tell me, little Saiyan, do you wish only to be protected, or to understand why warriors fight at all? The boy hesitated. In his heart, two truths wrestled, his fear of battle and his yearning to make his father proud. He remembered Piccolo's training, the harsh days of survival, the endless echoes of his own weakness. I don't want anyone to die because of me again," he said, his voice breaking like dawn through fog. King Kai smiled gently. "A noble answer. Power born of compassion. But compassion without will is as fragile as glass. If you truly wish to protect, then you must learn not only to feel, but to see." The gravity pressed harder. Gohan's knees buckled. He fell to the soft grass, sweat beading across his brow. The weight wasn't physical, it was cosmic, the weight of existence itself. King Kai watched in silence as the boy trembled, not intervening, because this was the first test, the burden of life, the realization that even innocence must learn endurance. And then through the pressure, through the ache in his bones and the scream in his lungs, Gohan remembered his father's last smile, and he stood, not in defiance, but in acceptance. King Kai nodded. "Good. You stand not because you wish to conquer, but because you refuse to yield. That is the seed of divine strength." He extended his palm, and in the air between them flickered the faint shimmer of golden ki, not the raging fire of the Saiyan race, but a soft radiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. "This," said King Kai, "is the essence of balance, power without fury, focus without pride. It is rare among mortals, and nearly forgotten among gods." Gohan reached out, his fingers trembling as they brushed the light. For a moment, he saw flashes, his father laughing, Piccolo meditating in silence, the earth glowing in orbit like a jewel. Then the light flowed into him, and his ki stirred differently than before, calm, grounded, almost musical. King Kai closed his eyes. "We shall begin. You will learn not just the art of combat, but the art of stillness. Not the roar of the Super Saiyan, but the whisper of divine restraint." Above them, the stars shimmered faintly, as if listening. And far away, on Snake Way, Goku paused mid-stride. For an instant, he felt something, a flicker of his son's ki, impossibly distant, impossibly clear. He smiled through his sweat. "Guess I'm not the only one training up here." The cosmos shifted. Two destinies, father and son, now ran parallel through the heavens, one guided by will, the other by understanding.
Somewhere deep within that eternal expanse, a story was being rewritten, a legend reborn, not from anger, but from the quiet courage of a child who refused to let love fade into memory. Morning never truly arrived on King Kai's world. Light simply softened, as if the cosmos drew a calmer breath. Gohan rose with it, muscles aching under the invisible ocean of gravity. The grass whispered at his ankles. Every step asked a question. "Will you keep going?" "First lesson," King Kai said, clapping once. The sound moved like a ripple through the sky. "Chase bubbles!" The monkey tilted his head with a mischievous grin and bolted. Gohan lunged and immediately ate the planet. Gravity pinned him, the ground greeting him with blunt honesty. He pushed up, cheeks burning, and ran again. Again he fell. Again he rose. The dance repeated until his lungs caught fire and his legs shook like saplings in a storm. Bubbles lapped, turned, taunted with a chitter song that sounded suspiciously like laughter.
Gohan's jaw tightened. The old heat flickered in him, that restless, frightened rage he'd confused for strength, and as it rose, his steps turned heavier, sloppier, less precise. He nearly had the tail, missed, crashed. The soil reminded him that anger was weight. "Stop," King Kai said, softly. Gohan froze, panting, forehead damp, hands trembling open and closed. Listen. At first, he heard only his heartbeat. Then, beneath it, something quieter. A hum, threaded through the air, through the grass, through his limbs. Not wind, not silence. The world's breath. It was in Bubble's quick feet, in the curve of the tiny horizon, in the way the gravity pulled without malice. A rhythm existed beneath effort. "Let the planet hold you up," King Kai whispered, as if speaking to the sky itself. "Run with it, not against it." Gohan closed his eyes. He inhaled. When he exhaled, he let the breath travel all the way down into his stance, as Piccolo had drilled into him on lonely plains. He did not chase Bubbles. He moved with him. The first steps felt like surrender. Then they felt like partnership. When the monkey zigged, Gohan's center shifted before thought, guided by that thin silver thread of rhythm. He wasn't faster. He was truer. His fingers brushed fur, not by force, but by arrival. Bubbles squeaked and hopped into King Kai's arms, accepting the end of the game with a proud little bow. Gohan looked down at his hands as if they were new. "The body is a bell," King Kai said. "Anger warps the tone. Harmony lets it ring." The Kai reached behind him and produced an absurdly large mallet as if from a fold in reality. It hummed with comedic menace. "Now," he continued, "gently tap Gregory on the head." Gregory descended like a shaft of sunlight with opinions. Gently? He says gently after telling the boy to chase a monkey through an ocean of gravity. Do you hear yourself, sir? "Gregory," King Kai said with infinite patience, "the comedy is non-negotiable." They began. Gohan swung and missed. Gregory zipped and lectured. Gohan aimed harder and missed worse, the mallet dragging him into clumsy arcs. Each failure thickened his breath, threatened to turn his frustration into heat. He felt it rise, then remembered the hum. He eased the wrists, loosened the shoulders, stopped trying to strike, and tried to meet. The mallet moved through an arc that wasn't his alone, and Gregory, startled by the change, paused, half a heartbeat too long. Thunk. "Ow!" Gregory rubbed his head, more offended than injured. "That wasn't gentle." Gohan flinched. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" King Kai lifted a hand. "You did mean it. You meant to meet the moment. That's different from harm. You're learning." They ate, if one could call it that, food that tasted like good memories and laughter. And Gohan laughed too, a small, startled sound that felt like healing. Between bites, King Kai told stories of fighters who chased power like a horizon and found only thirst. Of mortals who carried a single kindness farther than any technique. He never called them lessons. He didn't have to. Afterward, they sat at the planet's edge, legs dangling over nothing. The cosmos stretched endlessly below, a cathedral of night. King Kai tapped two fingers together, and a small sparkle spun in the air. It pulsed once, twice, like a distant star sending a message. There is a technique. It draws on the life energy of everything willing to share. A gift, not a theft. It is dangerous in the wrong hands, and demanding in the right ones. Your father may learn it one day. I am not sure you should. Gohan's eyes lifted. Because I'm not strong enough?
Because you're kind. The Kai's smile was both proud and worried. Kindness is a door. Many things can walk through it. You must know what you're inviting. Gohan thought of his mother's hands, of Piccolo's silent watch, of Krillin's nervous courage, and Bulma's stubborn faith, of a world that kept spinning no matter how hard the day was. If it can save them, that I want to know. King Kai closed his eyes. The halo above his head brightened and dimmed like a breath. Then we will begin with a seed, not a star. He had Gohan stand with palms open, fingers relaxed, as if ready to catch rain. Listen again, not only to this planet. Listen beyond it. Life hums differently in every place. Ask, do not demand. Invite, do not insist. Gohan let his mind loosen. The hum returned, near, far, layered. He felt the tiny planet's playful pulse, Bubbles' curious attention, Gregory's skeptical warmth. He reached a little farther and brushed 1,000 distant voices. Trees speaking in green sighs, oceans deep with blue patience, animals bright and quick, and between them, people, afraid, hopeful, ordinary, miraculous. He did not tug, he asked. A softness gathered between his hands. Light found shape. Not the blinding fury he'd seen when tempers flared, but a pale, singing glow the size of a fruit. Its surface quivered with 1,000,000 little reflections. He saw in its curved mirror the faces that had brought him here. He saw a field under Earth's sky. He saw Piccolo meditating alone. He saw his father running, tireless, stubborn, grinning through exhaustion. The sphere flickered. A shadow brushed the edge of his awareness, cold, far, predatory. Somewhere out in the black, 2 fires burned like spears. King Kai's expression changed, the gentleness thinning to a line.
"They're coming sooner than I hoped," he said, the words almost a prayer. 2 Saiyan signatures, one vast and cruel, one proud and patient. Earth feels small beneath their eyes. Gohan's breath hitched. The tiny sphere wavered, then steadied as he found the hum again. He did not know those names yet, Vegeta, Nappa, but he knew what they meant. A test, not of fists alone. "Keep your heart open," King Kai said, voice low, "but guard the doorway. The Genki answers to the one who holds it. If fear leads, it scatters. If anger leads, it burns. If compassion leads, it learns," Gohan whispered, surprised at the word. "It learns," King Kai agreed. They practiced until the sky felt heavy with quiet. Sometimes the glow guttered when his mind rushed ahead to battles he could not yet fight. Sometimes it brightened at a memory of his mother's smile or Piccolo's rare nod. When his legs shook, King Kai taught him to sit. When his thoughts raced, King Kai taught him to name them and let them pass, like clouds not worth a storm. On sane way, Goku ran and felt, again and again, a thread tug at his heart, the echo of his son doing something he could not quite name. He laughed into the wind. "That's my boy." When the day's end found them, if such things could be measured here, Gohan stood stronger, not taller, not louder, truer. The little sphere of gathered life hovered above his open hands, steady as a promise. King Kai watched it with a tenderness he rarely showed. Most would force it larger and call that victory. You held it small and made it faithful. Remember that. A tremor moved through the planet so softly Gohan almost missed it. Not a quake, a message. King Kai's antennae tilted toward the infinite. In his eyes, for a single naked instant, lived the full weight of a god who loved mortals and therefore feared for them. "We may not have the time we hoped,"
he said. "Your father will reach me, yes, but the earth will not wait politely." He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a vow. "If you carry even a seed of this heaven back with you, it could mean the difference between ruin and a second dawn." Gohan's hands closed gently around the light. It warmed his palms, not as fire, but as home. "I'll carry it." "Then hold your hands like this." King Kai guided his fingers, aligning them with the quiet laws between things. The sphere brightened, and in its round face, the sky gathered into a single, luminous point. Gohan felt the hum resonate in his bones until he almost mistook it for his pulse. Far away, two spears of ki knifed through space toward a blue world that did not yet know how hard it would have to hope. The little star in Gohan's hands trembled, listening. Days bled into something that was not time. On King Kai's world, hours folded like petals, each moment a lesson, each silence a test. For Gohan, it was the slow awakening of a flame that did not burn, but illuminated. He meditated beneath the bending sky, where gravity sang its low, constant hymn. His body trembled from strain, but his soul, that strange, unyielding light, began to settle. Sometimes he would feel a warmth in his chest, and it frightened him, for it felt alive, almost aware. King Kai said nothing at first, only watched. The Kai knew what this meant. Gohan was listening not just to ki, but to the heartbeat of creation itself.
Yet training was not always silence and serenity. There were nights when the boy awoke from dreams soaked in cold sweat, memories of Raditz, of his father's sacrifice, of Piccolo's stern gaze beneath the dying sun. Sometimes he saw flashes of the future, shadows of battles yet to come, and voices calling from distant stars. Fear clung to him like a second skin. One such night he sat alone at the edge of the planet, knees drawn to his chest. The infinite stretched below, black and endless. King Kai appeared beside him, his footsteps making no sound. "You're afraid again," the Kai said softly. Gohan nodded. "Every time I think I'm stronger, I see someone falling. My father, Mr. Piccolo, everyone I care about." His voice wavered. "No matter how much I train, it feels like it'll never be enough." King Kai tilted his head, the faint golden glow of his halo reflecting in Gohan's eyes. "Then you are beginning to understand the weight of life. Power is never enough. It was never meant to be. The question is not how much strength you gain, but why you seek it." Gohan turned his gaze downward, the gravity pulling at his thoughts. "I just don't want to lose anyone anymore." "That," said King Kai, "is the first truth of the warrior's path, the pain that gives birth to purpose. But listen, Gohan, love and fear are siblings. One will drive you to protect, the other will teach you to destroy. Only one can guide your ki." He placed a hand over the boy's heart. "Your father fights because he loves the battle, the challenge, the growth. But you fight because you love people. That difference will shape the fate of worlds." The stars shivered as if in agreement. Gohan swallowed. "But if I'm not strong enough?" King Kai interrupted gently. "Then strength will find you when you are ready to bear it." The boy closed his eyes. The air around him deepened, pulsing with faint blue light. It was not the fiery aura of the Saiyans. It was calmer, smoother, a spiritual resonance that made the planet hum in harmony.
King Kai stepped back, arms folded behind his back. He could sense it. The child's energy was no longer separate from the world's. It flowed with it, not against it. This was the foundation of divine combat, unity before dominance. The following cycles grew harsher. King Kai no longer used words. He taught through silence, through presence. Each exercise carried hidden purpose. Running against gravity honed not muscle, but will. Catching bubbles refined instinct without rage. Meditating with Gregory's bells sharpened the edge between focus and thought. And always, there was the hum, that cosmic breath that lived in everything. At times, Gohan would find himself lost in it. He would see flashes of his father, still training, still smiling, still running through Snake Way, and something inside him would tighten, not from sadness, but from a strange, radiant longing.
He missed him deeply, but that longing became motion. It became reason. "Do you feel it?" King Kai asked one day as they stood facing the empty horizon. "Yes," Gohan whispered. "It's like the universe is breathing through me." The Kai nodded. "That's harmony. When a warrior learns to hear creation, even silence becomes a teacher." He gestured toward the distance. "Now, speak back." Gohan furrowed his brow. "How?" "Not with words, with intent." The boy exhaled, closing his eyes. The hum rose again, and this time he let it answer him. Energy gathered around him in spirals, calm but potent, like waves forming around the eye of a storm. His aura was faint, not golden, not violent, but it sang. King Kai's expression softened. "You are not like your father. You will never fight only to win. You will fight to understand." The boy's eyes opened, reflecting the infinite above. "But will that make me weaker?" King Kai chuckled, not mockingly, but with the gentle mirth of truth. "No, Gohan. That will make you endless." Time folded again. One day, or perhaps 1,000, Gohan stood at the center of the planet, surrounded by floating orbs of ki. They shimmered like stars in orbit, balanced between calm and chaos. Sweat glistened on his brow, his chest rose and fell with steady rhythm, and in that stillness he heard the faintest whisper. "Soon." King Kai's antennae twitched. He heard it too. Not sound, but sense. A ripple of destruction moving through the cosmos, fierce and arrogant. 2 Saiyan forces had breached the solar edge. The Kai turned to Gohan. "Your father will reach me soon, but there is no time to waste. You must understand something, my boy. The training of gods is not for victory, it's for awakening. What you've learned here will not make battles easier, it will make them meaningful." Gohan nodded, his small fists trembling not from fear but anticipation. "Then I'll carry it back, everything you've taught me." King Kai smiled faintly. "Good. But remember this, when you return, the world will not recognize the light you have become. Mortals mistake stillness for weakness. Let their doubt be your shield." The gravity pulsed once more. The sky above rippled, as though the heavens themselves held their breath. Somewhere across dimensions, Goku neared the end of Snake Way, and for a brief instant, the 2 souls, father and son, touched across time and space. A warmth passed between them, a pulse that said without words, "I'm proud of you." Gohan closed his eyes. His aura shimmered brighter, then softened, folding inward like the last note of a song. King Kai placed a hand on his shoulder. Rest tonight. Tomorrow you begin learning the language of gods. The boy looked up. What is that? King Kai's smile deepened, ancient and secretive. Silence. The stars above glowed faintly, as if bowing in reverence to a truth as old as creation. And beneath that eternal light, the child who had reached the heavens sat once more, breathing, listening, becoming. There is a kind of silence that does not simply lack sound. It swallows meaning, time, and doubt alike. On King Kai's world, that silence was the teacher. Gohan awoke each cycle beneath it, surrounded by the hum of eternity, feeling it settle deeper into his bones. The boy who once trembled before danger now trembled before truth. The lessons had changed. The childish trials of chasing monkeys and dodging hammers had ended. What began as training for strength had become initiation into something else, an understanding of how power, when divorced from humility, decays into ruin. King Kai's world spun slowly beneath the cosmic firmament. Every morning, Gohan stood barefoot at its center, while the Kai's voice, calm and unyielding, carried across the field. The weight you feel is not gravity. It is the measure of existence, reminding you that life carries consequence. Each decision you make, each strike you throw, bends more than your enemy. It bends the universe itself. Gohan breathed, slow and steady. Sweat gathered along his temple, gravity pressing on his ribs like an ocean. He remembered Piccolo's words. Power comes with pain. If you can't bear it, you can't protect anyone. Yet this pain was different. It wasn't punishment. It was participation. Good, King Kai murmured. Now move. Gohan's fists cut through the dense air. Every motion became an argument against despair. The tiny planet shook, light spilling from his skin in soft waves. He could feel it, the harmony they had spoken of, the unity between his will and the living breath of the world. When he struck, the grass bent but did not break. When he moved, space itself seemed to yield, not in fear, but in rhythm. Still, exhaustion came. His body was mortal, even if his spirit reached beyond it. He fell to one knee, chest heaving, arms limp at his sides. King Kai stepped forward. Do you feel the ache? Gohan nodded weakly. That ache, he said, is the price of growth. Every life form pays it differently. A god feels it in the loss of compassion. A mortal feels it in the burn of muscle. But it is the same truth. The universe does not evolve without cost. He knelt beside the boy, placing one finger against Gohan's chest. Remember this. Strength gained without meaning will hollow you. The Saiyan within you craves battle, but your heart, your human heart, must guide it, or it will consume everything you love.
The words settled like stone in Gohan's mind. He didn't yet understand them fully, but he felt their gravity, heavier than the planet beneath his feet. They rested
For a time, King Kai told stories again of beings who chased eternity and found madness, of warriors who sought peace and found enlightenment instead. Each tale carried a quiet ache, as if the Kai had seen them all fall, again and again, across the span of endless ages. "Tell me," Gohan asked one day, gazing up at the endless curve of stars, "do you ever get tired of teaching?" King Kai chuckled, rubbing his chin. "Teaching? No. Watching mortals repeat the same mistakes for millennia? Maybe a little." He tilted his head. "But you, Gohan, you learn differently. You listen." The boy smiled faintly. "Because I've seen what happens when I don't." A silence passed between them, not uncomfortable, but sacred. As weeks, or centuries, depending on how one counted time beyond mortality, unfolded, Gohan's understanding deepened. His body hardened under gravity's pull, but his spirit softened in response. The two forces danced, power and peace, flame and water. King Kai began teaching him telepathy, not the crude mental calls of warriors, but the true communication of spirit, where emotion carried more weight than language. Through this, Gohan began to hear life itself. The grass beneath him whispered of patience. The sky murmured in tones of endurance. Even the silence between stars held conversation, echoes of countless souls lost and found. At first, it overwhelmed him. He fell to the ground, clutching his chest, heart pounding beneath the flood of voices. "It's too much," he gasped. King Kai closed his eyes. "Then stop hearing it all. Choose." His breath came ragged. "How?" "By remembering who you are." He focused on his mother's laughter, his father's smile, the warmth of home. The chaos quieted. Slowly, the voices dimmed until only one remained, steady, kind, unwavering, his own. King Kai's lips curved into a small smile. "Now you're beginning to understand what gods forget. The universe does not need to be mastered. It needs to be heard." Later that cycle, Gohan sat cross-legged near the edge of the world, watching the stars. His ki pulsed in gentle rhythm with the heartbeat of the planet. A blue aura, faint, tranquil, shimmered around him, fading into the night. King Kai approached. "You've come far, Gohan, but the hardest lesson remains."
The boy looked up, his expression calm but curious. "Harder than this gravity?" King Kai chuckled. "Gravity is easy. It only weighs on the body. The next lesson weighs on the soul." "What is it?" The Kai's gaze turned distant, ancient. "Understanding that sometimes mercy is the strongest strike." Gohan tilted his head, confused. "But mercy doesn't stop evil." "Doesn't it?" King Kai's tones softened. "Mercy is not weakness. It's the refusal to let darkness dictate your form. When you fight, you will face enemies whose hatred burns brighter than suns. They will call your compassion foolish. But if you abandon it, you will become them." The words lodged deep within Gohan's heart. For the first time, he began to grasp what his father truly meant when he smiled in battle. Not arrogance, but acceptance. A belief that conflict was a path to understanding, not destruction. He closed his eyes. Then I'll remember. No matter what happens, I'll fight to protect, not to punish. King Kai nodded slowly. Good. You're beginning to sound like someone the universe might trust with more than strength. Above them, the stars flickered once, a silent applause. But far beyond those stars, the two Saiyan invaders hurtled ever closer, their energy blazing like meteors of doom. King Kai turned his gaze upward, his expression tightening. It won't be long now. Gohan followed his stare. He couldn't see them yet, but he could feel them, burning through the void, hungering for conquest. His hands clenched unconsciously, that faint Saiyan fire whispering in his blood. He exhaled slowly, steadying himself. His aura did not flare. It calmed. In that moment, he did not look like a child. He looked like a storm preparing to choose mercy. The sky above King Kai's world was not the sky of mortals. It was a living ocean of light and shadow where stars drifted like memories. And beneath that cosmic sea, Gohan knelt, palms pressed against the glowing soil, feeling the pulse of eternity thrum beneath his skin. The air was thick with ki, not just his own, but the planet's, King Kai's, perhaps even whispers of the divine. Good, King Kai said softly, standing behind him. Now let it move through you, not from you. Remember, Gohan, a warrior who forces power invites chaos. A warrior who becomes its vessel invites peace.
The boy closed his eyes. He could feel it now, the living thread connecting all things. His body no longer strained against gravity. It danced with it. Each breath was rhythm, each heartbeat a step in the song of creation. In that silence, the weight of infinity no longer crushed him, it cradled him. But silence is never eternal. Suddenly, the calm broke. A tremor rippled through the realm, faint but certain, like the universe had flinched. King Kai's antenna stiffened, his eyes narrowed toward the endless void. They've entered the solar system, he murmured. Gohan's gaze lifted, though there was nothing visible to mortal eyes. Yet he felt it. Two terrible presences cutting through the dark, ancient and arrogant. One burned with pride like an endless flame, the other with cruelty, heavy and blunt as iron. Nappa, Vegeta. Your father is still on his way, King Kai said gravely. But Earth doesn't have time to wait for him. Gohan's stomach tightened. He could see flashes, the people he loved, the fields of Earth, the trembling faces of those who had once been kind to him. He could see them all, and he could see the fire descending. He turned to King Kai, eyes wide but unbroken. Can't I go back now? Can't I help? King Kai shook his head. Not yet. To return without mastery would be to throw your soul into the flames. The Saiyan inside you still trembles between fear and fury, and if you face them like this, that fury will own you. Gohan's hands curled into fists. But I can't just stay here. King Kai's tone deepened, but his eyes softened. Then master the moment, Gohan. If you wish to protect your world, you must become it. Steady, infinite, and unyielding.
Show me that you can bear the silence of the cosmos without losing yourself. The gravity around him doubled. The air thickened until it felt like molten glass. The hum that once soothed him now roared like a storm. Gohan fell to one knee, every breath a battle. "Do not fight it!" King Kai's voice boomed, echoing through the void. "Flow with it!" The boy gasped, muscles screaming. Every instinct told him to resist, to fight back, to break through. The Saiyan within demanded it. But another voice, quieter and older, whispered beneath the agony, "Listen."
The pain did not stop, but it changed shape. The pressure no longer pushed against him, it moved through him, like the tide passing a rock that had finally learned to yield. The more he surrendered, the more he felt it, that strange, vast harmony, the universe breathing through his bones. And then, everything stilled. The gravity lessened, the world brightened. His aura flickered to life, no longer the wild burst of mortal ki, but a steady radiance that shimmered between gold and blue, the quiet flame of purpose. King Kai stepped forward slowly, his halo glowing brighter than usual. "You've done it," he said, almost whispering. "You've touched the rhythm of creation itself." Gohan rose to his feet, panting, eyes glowing faintly. He looked at his hands. They no longer trembled. The air around him hummed softly, bending to his calm. "This is what your father will one day learn to reach. But for you, it comes differently. His power is born of freedom. Yours is born of harmony. He will shake the universe with his will. But you, Gohan, you will heal it." The words felt too large for him, yet they did not frighten him. "I don't want to be stronger than my father. I just don't want to see anyone suffer again." King Kai smiled, the corners of his eyes creasing with centuries of wisdom. "Then your heart has already surpassed him." They trained until even the gods might have envied the boy's serenity. King Kai guided him through the higher arts of energy control, the KAIOKEN, the amplification of ki through pure will. Yet when Gohan tried it, the effect was different. The red flame that once consumed Goku flared around Gohan, not as fire, but as light, luminous, steady, and silent. King Kai watched in awe. "Impossible! Your body isn't tearing itself apart. You've balanced the force before it unravels." "It doesn't feel like rage," Gohan said, voice calm within the glow. "It feels like focus." The Kai nodded slowly. "Then remember that feeling, for when battle comes, the world will scream for your fury, but you must give it your peace." They stood in stillness a long time. The faint wind, if such a thing could exist here, brushed across Gohan's face. In that silence, a single tear rolled down King Kai's cheek. Gohan noticed. "Why are you crying?" he asked softly. The Kai smiled, voice trembling. "Because once in 1,000 eras, a mortal remembers what divinity truly means." The stars above flared in response, as though the heavens themselves bowed. Far away, Goku had finally reached the end of Snake Way. His heart burned with urgency, yet something within him whispered, not words, but warmth, the unmistakable echo of his son.
He smiled. "So that's how it is, huh? You've been training up here, too." And somewhere beyond the veil of space, Gohan smiled as well, as if he'd heard. For a brief moment, two souls aligned, father and son, bound not by blood alone, but by purpose. King Kai exhaled slowly. The time has come. Gohan turned, heart steady. To return? Yes. The Kai's expression was solemn now, his jovial manner replaced by divine clarity. The Saiyans will arrive within moments of your return. You will face death and despair, but you will not face them as the frightened child who hid behind others. You will face them as one who has carried the weight of infinity and did not break. Gohan nodded, his aura soft and unwavering. King Kai raised his hand, summoning a beam of pure light. The portal shimmered open, blue and golden, like a tear in the universe. Go, child of earth and heaven. The stars will remember you. Gohan looked back once. Thank you for believing in me. King Kai smiled gently. It wasn't belief, Gohan. It was recognition. And with that, the boy stepped into the light, carrying not the roar of a warrior, but the stillness of a god. The portal opened like a breath drawn by the earth itself. Light folded inward, and Gohan stepped through, barefoot, calm, a child no longer. The winds of the mortal realm rushed around him, thick with dust and the scent of distant fear. He stood on the high cliffs overlooking the wastelands where Piccolo once trained him. The grass bent toward him, sensing something it could not name. He looked down at his hands, remembering the feel of King Kai's world, the pulse of divine rhythm beneath his skin. Here, the air was heavier, not with gravity, but with mortality. And yet, it was beautiful. Gohan! This voice shattered his stillness. Piccolo descended from the sky, cloak snapping like thunder. His sharp eyes studied the boy, his student, his rival, his unspoken son. "You're alive," Piccolo said, and though his tone carried its usual steel, there was warmth buried beneath. "I was beginning to think you'd vanished into the void like your father." Gohan smiled faintly. "I was training, somewhere beyond."
Piccolo's brow furrowed. He could sense it. The ki within Gohan wasn't the same. It was quiet, balanced, but vast, like an ocean pretending to be a pond. It unnerved him. "You've changed." "So have you," Gohan replied. His eyes flickered briefly, as if peering past the Namekian stoic face to the fragile resolve beneath. "You don't want anyone to die this time, do you?" Piccolo didn't answer. He didn't need to. A tremor rolled across the land, subtle at first, then sharper, as though the earth itself remembered fear. Piccolo's gaze snapped upward. Two blinding lights tore through the clouds, streaking flame and arrogance. "They're here." The Saiyans. The first explosion landed miles away, yet the shockwave kissed the cliffs like a divine warning. Gohan steadied himself against the gust, his hair whipping in the wind. Nappa and Vegeta stepped from the crater they'd carved into the planet, gods of violence in mortal skin. Their presence was suffocating. Even the sky seemed to darken in deference. Vegeta mused, scanning the landscape with quiet disdain. "So this is the planet that cost us 2 of our kind. Pathetic." Nappa grinned, teeth gleaming. "And these are the defenders?" He cracked his knuckles, the sound echoing like breaking stone. "Can't wait to crush them." They split the air with their aura, the world shuddering beneath it. Piccolo's jaw tightened. "Gohan," he said lowly, "remember everything you've learned. Stay back until—"
No. The word was soft, but it carried strange authority. Piccolo turned to him. The eyes were half-lidded, unshaken. His aura was still. No fire, no crackle, just light. "They're not just enemies," Gohan said quietly. "They're echoes." Echoes, Piccolo blinked, "of what we could become. Power without purpose, rage without reason."
Piccolo almost said something, almost told him he was too young for philosophy, but stopped. Because for a heartbeat, he saw it. The energy shimmering around the boy, bending light itself in perfect balance. This was not the trembling child he'd trained. This was something else. "Fine," Piccolo growled. "Just don't die before your father gets here." Gohan smiled faintly. He's already on his way. The battle began as all battles do, with arrogance. Nappa charged first, roaring like a storm. The ground split under his feet, his energy flaring like molten gold. Piccolo, Tien, Krillin, and Yamcha met him with coordinated fury, each strike desperate, each dodge narrow. But Nappa was a mountain of violence, and the Earth's heroes were pebbles against his wrath. One by one, they fell, some broken, some barely breathing. Dust swallowed the horizon. Through it all, Gohan stood motionless, eyes closed, ki humming beneath his skin like the strings of an instrument. The world screamed for him to move, to unleash, to rage. But he waited. He listened. Piccolo's scream tore through the chaos. He threw himself between Nappa's blast and Gohan, his body catching the searing explosion. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The dust cleared. Gohan lay crumpled, his cloak smoldering, his chest cracked open by fire. He turned his head weakly toward Gohan. "Don't waste it," he rasped. The world blurred. Gohan's vision flooded with light, memory, and pain. Not the wild, crimson rage of his past, but something colder, deeper. He felt it, the echo of Saiyan blood, the heritage of destruction pulsing within his veins. It wanted to roar. It wanted vengeance. But beneath it, another voice, quiet, vast, infinite, spoke. "Remember harmony." Gohan inhaled. His aura rose, blue at first, then golden at the edges, a fire laced with serenity. The air thickened. Even Nappa paused, sensing something alien in the boy's calm. Gohan opened his eyes. They glowed faintly, not with rage, but with understanding. He stepped forward once, and the earth cracked, not from pressure, but from presence. "Your anger is loud, but even the loudest storm fades."
Nappa snarled and lunged, his massive fist cutting the air. Gohan raised his hand, and the impact stopped mid-strike, the shockwave rippling outward in a silent bloom. For an instant, Nappa's eyes widened, then the energy around him collapsed, his own force turned inward by Gohan's control. The giant fell to his knees, gasping, his aura shattered. Piccolo, half conscious, stared in disbelief. What are you?" Gohan looked down at his open hand. "Balance," he said softly. "The lesson King Kai taught me." Vegeta's laughter cut through the dust, sharp and amused. "Impressive boy. You've learned control, but let me show you the futility of serenity against a storm." He raised his hand, palm glowing with a light too terrible to be mortal.
Let's see how calm you are when your planet burns." The air split open. A sphere of destruction bloomed in the sky, a miniature sun born of cruelty. The earth trembled beneath its shadow. Gohan looked up, his breath steady. Around him, the remnants of the battlefield shimmered, broken stones, fallen warriors, trembling air. Yet in that ruin, he felt something sacred, life still clinging, the hum of existence refusing to fade. The Genki seed he'd once held on King Kai's world now blossomed. His aura turned brilliant white. The energy sphere met his hands and stopped. Vegeta's eyes widened, disbelief twisting his features. You can't." But Gohan could, because this was not the power of a Saiyan child. It was the echo of every soul who refused despair. The world itself was lending him strength. And in that blinding collision, the sky sang. The light swallowed the battlefield. It wasn't the brutal flash of annihilation, but something purer. An illumination that stripped away deceit and noise until only truth remained. When it faded, smoke curled upward like incense from the altar of a dying god. Gohan stood in the center, arms trembling, palms still raised. His breath came in slow, measured pulls. Beneath him, the earth was scarred but alive. The planet itself seemed to sigh in relief.
Vegeta floated above, his armor cracked, face painted with the soot of his own arrogance. The prince of all Saiyans had never seen power like this. Not power that raged, but power that refused to rage. "What are you?" Vegeta asked, his voice low, almost reverent. Gohan looked up, eyes steady. The gold in them flickered like sunrise to clouds. "Your reflection," he said simply. "The part of you that remembers what mercy feels like." For a breath, Vegeta hesitated. Somewhere deep within the labyrinth of his pride, the words struck something dormant. A memory of a father's hand on his shoulder, of a planet long dead, of a child once taught that strength was the only truth. Then the moment passed. His aura ignited, violet red and venomous. "Mercy," he spat, "is a lie the weak tell themselves before dying." Gohan didn't flinch. Then die believing in strength alone. The words were not threat, but invitation. Vegeta descended. The impact shattered the air. The shockwave turned clouds into spirals of fire. Gohan moved, not faster than light, but truer than fear. Every motion answered Vegeta's wrath without mirroring it. When the prince's fist lunged forward, Gohan turned it aside with an open palm. When his kick came from the blind angle of death, Gohan flowed beneath it like water carving stone. Each strike, each breath, carried the echo of both their bloodlines, the rage of Saiyans and the restraint of mortals, colliding and weaving into something the universe had never seen. Vegeta snarled, "Stop dodging! Fight me like a warrior!" "I am," Gohan said softly, "a warrior of balance." He pivoted, letting Vegeta's next blast pass harmlessly over his shoulder, then extended 2 fingers toward the earth. The energy hit the ground, not his enemy, creating a pulse that steadied the collapsing terrain beneath the unconscious fighters nearby. Even in battle, he protected. Vegeta's eyes widened with fury. "You think yourself above me?" "No," Gohan whispered. "I think we could have been the same." Vegeta roared. His aura doubled, consuming the horizon.
Rocks lifted, the wind screamed, and even the stars above seemed to watch in uneasy silence. He launched forward, faster than before. His pride sharpened into weaponry. His fists became meteors, his energy bursts dying suns. And still, Gohan endured. Not by overpowering, by understanding. Each attack that should have broken him instead dissolved into light before impact, as though the boy's Kai absorbed the hatred and returned it transformed. His aura, once calm, now glowed brighter, threads of blue woven with gold, vibrating with the music of the world itself.
At last, Vegeta halted midair, panting, sweat and disbelief on his face. This isn't possible, he gasped. You're half Saiyan. You shouldn't. I'm half human, Gohan said, stepping closer. That's the part that knows how to stop. He raised his hand, not in aggression, but in offering. You don't have to be what they made you. The silence that followed was almost unbearable. The dust drifted. The wind softened. For the first time in his life, Vegeta felt something colder than fear, recognition. But pride was an old chain forged in the fires of survival. He tore free of hesitation and gathered the last of his energy. No mercy. He roared, his aura exploding outward in a blinding storm. The ground beneath him cracked open, molten light spilling from the wounds. Gohan closed his eyes. Then I'll show you mercy anyway. He drew his hands to his chest, breathing deep. The world responded. Energy, not his, but the planet's, rushed to him like wind finding its center. His aura became a halo, pulsing with every heartbeat of life that still endured. The sound was no longer battle, it was prayer. When he moved, the motion was small, gentle. The explosion that met Vegeta's final attack was not violent, but transcendent. The light consumed everything, and in its silence, one could almost hear King Kai's voice. Power without compassion is empty. When the radiance faded, Vegeta lay half buried in the earth, his armor shattered, his pride heavier than his wounds. Above him, Gohan hovered, aura dimmed to a faint glow. I didn't kill you, the boy said quietly, because someone once believed I could be more than my blood. Maybe one day you'll believe it too. Vegeta's lips twisted, not quite a snarl. Not quite a smile. You're a fool, he rasped. The universe eats the merciful. Then let it choke, Gohan replied. For a moment, the prince saw something in the boy's eyes that silenced him completely. A reflection of what he might have been had destiny whispered differently. He turned his gaze aside. Finish it. No. The refusal hung between them, soft, yet absolute.
Gohan landed beside him, placing 2 fingers to his own forehead. A memory rippled through him, his father laughing under the sun, promising that strength meant nothing without joy. He smiled faintly. You'll live. That's punishment enough. He turned to the horizon where Goku's energy was nearing, bright and fierce. He'll be here soon. Vegeta forced himself upright, every breath a war. Then I'll face him next. Gohan looked back once, the wind brushing his hair. You already have, he said, and walked away. He found Piccolo amid the ruins, barely conscious but alive. The Namekian opened one eye, studied the boy's calm face, and let out a rough laugh that turned into a cough. You did it. Didn't even look angry doing it.
Gohan knelt beside him, smiling faintly. I remembered what you taught me. Power isn't about destroying. It's about deciding what deserves to live. Piccolo exhaled, something like pride flickering across his face. You're more dangerous than your father ever was. The wind shifted. A familiar key approached, wild, radiant, uncontainable. Goku. He landed a few yards away, eyes wide as he surveyed the battlefield, the crater, the fallen Saiyan, the child standing unharmed at the center of stillness. Gohan, he said softly. You did all this? The boy turned, eyes bright but humble. No, Dad. We did. You taught me what strength means. King Kai taught me what peace means. I just listened. Goku's grin returned, weary but proud. Guess you've already gone beyond me, huh? Gohan shook his head. Not beyond, just a different path. Behind them, the horizon shimmered faintly, the last glow of the battle fading into sunrise. For the first time since the war began, Earth was quiet. And in that silence, something ancient stirred within Gohan, a whisper of destiny, reminding him that this was only the beginning. The blood of Saiyans still sang in his veins, but now it was guided by harmony, not hunger. Above them, King Kai watched through the veil of the divine realm. He smiled, tears glinting in his round eyes. Well done, little one. You've carried heaven back to earth. The halo around his head pulsed once, brighter than before, as if the universe itself bowed in acknowledgement. And below, the child who bore both mortal heart and divine ki lifted his gaze to the dawn, feeling for the first time that the weight of infinity was not a burden. It was home.
The smoke of battle had long since drifted away, but its echo lingered. The earth breathed again, quietly, uncertainly, as though afraid that the silence might break. Gohan stood atop a ruined ridge, the early light spilling across the scorched plains. The dawn after destruction had a strange beauty to it, fragile, undeserved, yet deeply sacred. Beneath him, the wind carried the faint hum of life returning, of insects crawling from the ash, of soil remembering its purpose. He closed his eyes and let the warmth settle across his skin. The same sunlight that had watched his father die now touched him too, and somehow it no longer felt like grief. It felt like inheritance. Goku had already left to chase Vegeta, not out of vengeance, but understanding. The father needed to face the pride that mirrored his own, and the son needed to face what pride could become. So Gohan stayed, to watch, to listen, to learn what peace sounded like after war. Piccolo meditated beside him, cloak torn, chest bandaged, but spirit unbroken. His silence was not the silence of indifference, but of a master whose student had surpassed the lesson. "You're too calm," Piccolo muttered finally. "After all that, most warriors would either collapse or scream victory. You're just still." Gohan smiled faintly, because the fight wasn't the victory. Piccolo opened one eye. Then what was? The choice not to lose myself. Piccolo's gaze lingered on him, a flicker of something like respect, the kind he rarely gave. "You sound like a god." Gohan looked up
at the pale morning sky. "No," he said softly, "just someone who finally stopped fighting what he is." In the quiet days that followed, Gohan trained alone in the high cliffs where the air was thin and pure. He moved not with aggression but with grace, each step deliberate, each strike a question. He no longer fought to prepare for enemies. He trained to understand himself. And in that understanding, something began to shift. When he meditated, he could feel threads of energy that stretched beyond his body into the rivers, the wind, even the heartbeat of the world itself. Sometimes he could hear it, faint whispers, fragments of thoughts not his own, the universe speaking back. But one night, the voice that reached him was not the calm of the cosmos. It was a scream carried on a dying star's breath. King Kai's voice cut through the vision, sharp and grave. "Gohan, there's no time. Frieza, he's coming."
The name shuddered through him like the crack of thunder across water. He'd heard it once from his father, a tyrant among gods, a destroyer who shaped galaxies through fear. But now that shadow loomed real. King Kai's tone darkened. "Vegeta and your father will cross paths with him soon on a world called Namek. The Dragon Balls are there, the wish to restore your friends and the seed of a new war." The wind around Gohan turned cold. "Then I have to go." "Yes," King Kai said softly, "but remember what you've learned. Frieza's power is unlike anything you've known. His strength is death wrapped in calm. You cannot meet hatred with hatred, Gohan. You must meet it with what you became." The vision faded, leaving him beneath the stars, heart racing but spirit steady. He knew what had to be done. The journey to Namek was silent. The stars whispered as the ship drifted through the endless night, and Gohan sat cross-legged in meditation. Each hum of the engine matched the rhythm of his breath. He could feel distant pulses, his father's energy bright and wild, Vegeta's sharp and cold, and beneath them both, something else, deeper, darker, coiled like a serpent around the planet's core. When Namek came into view, he opened his eyes. The planet shimmered, green seas beneath cyan skies, its aura soft and ancient. It was alive in ways Earth had forgotten. But even from orbit, Gohan could feel the imbalance, the fear spreading across the surface like ink in water. He landed quietly, his feet touching the grass as if asking permission. The air smelled of memory and sorrow. He could sense it, the lives lost, the prayers unanswered. And somewhere beyond the horizon, a pressure rose. Vast, oppressive, cold. Frieza. Gohan's pulse quickened. Not in fear, in recognition. The weight of that key was not chaos. It was precision, controlled cruelty, power with no purpose but dominance. Piccolo had once told him that true evil wasn't noise, it was silence misused. Now he understood. He moved swiftly across the terrain, cloaking his presence, seeking his father. When at last he found him, Goku was meditating on a plateau overlooking the ocean, his back turned to the rising storm. "Hey, son," Goku said without turning. His tone was warm, casual, as though they were back on Earth, not on the edge of apocalypse. Gohan smiled. "You felt me coming?" "I always do." They stood together in the quiet, the wind brushing their hair in the same rhythm. "I heard about Frieza," Gohan said.
Is it true what they say that he destroyed planet Vegeta? Goku's voice softened. Yes, he's the reason our people became ghosts. But maybe, he glanced at his son, maybe he's also the reason we were sent to remind the universe what strength can be. Gohan nodded. Then let's remind him.
They found Frieza soon after. He stood upon the broken stones of a Namekian village, one foot resting on the ruins of what had been a home. His aura was invisible, but its presence bent the air. His smile was a wound carved into porcelain. When he turned, his eyes were full of boredom. Ah, more monkeys. Goku's jaw tightened, but Gohan stepped forward first. Frieza tilted his head, amused. A child. You send me a child. Gohan's eyes met his, calm, unwavering. Not to fight you, to witness you. Frieza's laughter was sharp and silver. Witness me, my dear boy, you will. And with a flick of his finger, the ground beneath them exploded. Gohan vanished in the light, reappearing in the air behind him, faster, quieter than thought. His aura did not flare, it shimmered, folding the light around his body like a living prayer. He struck once, open-handed, precise. Frieza blocked easily, smiling. Interesting, the tyrant purred. Your energy feels clean, unspoiled. Let's see how long that lasts. Their clash shook the sky. Every strike carved silence where sound should have been. Frieza fought like a sculptor of death, every motion elegant, cruel. But Gohan did not meet elegance with force. He met it with truth. Each of his counters was a mirror. Each of his steps a reflection. For every cruelty Frieza unleashed, Gohan answered with balance. But even balance breaks beneath the weight of evil. A flicker of dark light, and Frieza was behind him. The blow came too fast to see. Blood painted the air. Gohan crashed into the ocean below, the water hissing around him. For a moment, everything went still. The world, his breath, his thoughts. Then, beneath the waves, his eyes opened, burning gold at the edges. Not rage, not yet. Something deeper. He rose from the water, the surface splitting silently around him. His aura shimmered, not with fury, but with revelation. Frieza smirked. Finally, the cub bares his fangs. Gohan's voice was quiet, too quiet. No, I'm remembering what I am. And for the first time since the universe began, the air around Frieza trembled, not from fear, but from recognition. He was facing something the gods themselves had forgotten to fear. The surface of Namek glowed like emerald fire beneath twin suns. Every ripple of light seemed to hold its breath as the two beings, one born of ruin, one born of balance, faced each other across the shattered sea. Frieza smiled, that thin, surgical smile of something too intelligent to feel empathy. I see it now, he said, voice dripping with amusement. You're not like your father. His power howls. Yours hums. You think that makes you special? Gohan hovered above the waves.
aura flickering like a candle that refused to bow to wind. It doesn't make me special. It makes me responsible. The tyrant's eyes narrowed. Responsible for what? For what happens when power forgets why it exists? The tyrant's laughter cracked the air. Then let me help you remember. He vanished. The ocean erupted upward, columns of water carved into spirals as Frieza's tail sliced through space itself. Gohan met him halfway, their movements blurring into streaks of color. Every impact birthed a storm, every near miss tore through the clouds. Yet within the chaos, Gohan's energy remained measured, a heartbeat of calm amid destruction. He remembered King Kai's voice. Do not fight to win, fight to understand. And so he did. Frieza's blows came faster, each more desperate than the last. Why don't you scream? He snarled. Why don't you rage like the others? Because I know what rage creates. The tyrant's grin faltered. His next attack was reckless, driven by insult. Gohan turned, redirecting the energy upward, where it dissolved into harmless light. The motion was effortless, almost tender.
This world has suffered enough, Gohan said softly. You're not its test, Frieza. You're its mirror. Frieza froze midair, his face twisting. Mirror? I am divine. He raised his hand. The air solidified around it, energy bending inward until it glowed white-hot. Then let's see how divinity feels. He launched the beam. The light streaked across the sky, a lance of annihilation, perfect and merciless. Gohan didn't dodge. He raised one hand, palm outward. The impact split the heavens. The sound wasn't thunder, it was silence breaking. For an instant, every life on Namek felt it. Even Goku, far away, paused mid-battle, his head turning toward the horizon where his son stood. When the light faded, Gohan was still there. Smoke curled around his body. The skin on his arm burned, bleeding light instead of blood. His gaze didn't waver. You mistake destruction for godhood. But even gods answer to what they've created. Frieza's snarl deepened. Then answer this. He surged forward, no longer graceful, just monstrous. His tail lashed, his fists blurred, his energy burned, too bright to sustain. And as the ocean shattered beneath them, Gohan finally understood what King Kai meant by the language of gods. Silence. He stopped blocking, stopped striking. He simply moved through the rhythm, his energy folding with Frieza's, absorbing it, diffusing it. The sea calmed where he passed, the lightning above dimmed. Frieza's power, for all its terror, began to look small. Desperation broke his composure. You child, what are you? Gohan's eyes shimmered, half gold, half blue, a memory of balance. Then, without a sound, he placed his palm against Frieza's chest. For a heartbeat, they both stood still. Then, light erupted, not violent, not vengeful, but cleansing. It washed over everything, sea, sky, stone. The force of it didn't destroy, it revealed.
The tyrant's energy crumbled around him like glass dissolving in rain.
When the radiance faded, Frieza fell to his knees in the shallow water. His armor smoked. His power, still immense, felt hollow, disconnected, bleeding away like color in the dark. "You," he whispered hoarsely, "you didn't kill me." "I could have, but mercy is the weight you'll carry. Live and remember what it felt like when the universe didn't answer your violence." Frieza's eyes widened. "You pity me?" "No," Gohan said. "I see you." He turned away, his aura dimming to a faint halo of light. Frieza watched him leave, unable to speak. For the first time in his existence, the Emperor of Death felt smaller than the world he'd tried to own. Across the sky, Goku's energy drew nearer, fierce, golden, unstoppable. The storm of his power hummed like destiny itself. As father and son met on the quiet ridge overlooking the wounded ocean, Goku paused, sensing the remnants of divine stillness still rippling through the air. "You faced him," Goku said softly. Gohan nodded. "He's broken, but alive." A long silence passed. Goku's smile was sad, proud, and weary all at once. "You did what I couldn't." "No," Gohan said gently. "You showed me what strength should mean. I just followed it home." They looked out together at the horizon, where the ocean met the green sky. The air was still, heavy with aftermath, yet strangely alive. "What now?" Goku asked. Gohan's answer was simple. "We teach the universe what peace looks like after power." Goku laughed under his breath. "That's a tall order for two Saiyans." "Then it's a good thing we're not just Saiyans," Gohan said, smiling. From afar, King Kai watched them through the fabric of the other world, his antenna humming with pride. "Balance restored," he murmured. "For now." Bubbles chittered, Gregory grumbled something about gravity, and the Kai smiled wider. "He's become what even gods envy, a soul that knows when to fight and when to forgive." He tilted his head toward the stars. "But destiny never sleeps long, does it?"
Because somewhere far beyond Namek's light, across galaxies that burned with ambition, something stirred, a ripple that carried the echo of Gohan's balance through creation and woke beings who feared nothing except stillness. And thus, the universe began to listen. The battle for meaning was over, but meaning itself had only just begun. In the stillness between stars, a new legend took root, of a boy who became harmony, of a warrior who refused rage, of a child who looked into infinity and saw himself reflected there. The stars above Namek burned quietly, each one a whisper of ancient judgment. The air no longer trembled with battle, but something deeper lingered, a silence so complete it felt sacred. Gohan stood at the edge of a crater, his body weary, his heart weightless. For the first time in his young life, there was no enemy left to fight, only himself and what he had become. The ocean reflected his face, a boy's frame, a warrior's eyes, and within them, something not even King Kai could have predicted. Stillness, not peace born of victory,
but peace carved from truth. Behind him, Goku approached slowly. His footsteps were light, respectful. Father and son stood in the same light, neither speaking, both knowing the same thing. Something irreversible had awakened within the child. "You didn't just fight Frieza," Goku said quietly. "You changed something." Gohan turned to him, his expression unreadable. "I didn't want to, but maybe the universe did." Goku chuckled softly, but there was awe beneath the laughter. "Huh, you sound more like a Kai than a Saiyan." "Maybe both," Gohan said. "Maybe that's what balance really is." The wind moved between them like breath, carrying the scent of salt and ozone. Somewhere in the distance, a Namekian child cried out, a sound of mourning and rebirth intertwined. "Dad," Gohan said suddenly, "when you fought Frieza in your timeline, you turned into something else, didn't you?" Goku looked toward the horizon. "Yeah, when Krillin died, something inside me broke. I became a Super Saiyan, pure power, pure rage. It felt like fire burning through my soul." Gohan studied him quietly. "Did it feel right?" "It felt necessary, but not right." The boy nodded as though confirming something he'd already suspected. "Then maybe there's another way."
That night, under the twin moons, Gohan meditated alone. The silence of Namek surrounded him, vast, gentle, ancient. He closed his eyes and reached inward, past the noise of muscle and memory, past even his ki, until he found the thread that King Kai had spoken of, the rhythm that connected all life. It pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of creation. And in that space, he saw visions, not of the present, but of what might be. He saw Cell. He saw Goku's sacrifice. He saw his own rage tearing through everything he had tried to protect. He saw gods who would later test him, angels who would whisper riddles about instinct, destruction, and peace. And through it all, he saw himself forever walking the line between two truths, the fire of Saiyan blood and the light of divine compassion. Tears slid down his cheeks, silent and unbidden. "I don't want to lose myself," he whispered to the stars. "Not again, not ever." The air shifted. A warmth surrounded him, not from the planet, but from beyond. "Then don't," came King Kai's voice, soft as thought. "You've already seen what lies beyond rage. Now you must live it." Gohan opened his eyes. His aura flickered faintly, white at its core, gold at the edges. For a heartbeat, his hair shimmered. But it wasn't the familiar yellow flame of Super Saiyan. It was something gentler, transcendent. The energy hummed in resonance with the world instead of tearing through it. He smiled faintly. "So this is it, the light beyond rage." When dawn rose again, Goku was already preparing to leave. Namek's Dragon Balls had been gathered. The dead would be restored. The planet's wounds would heal. But as Gohan approached, Goku paused, sensing something wordless radiating from his son. "Your ki," said Goku. "It's different." Gohan shrugged slightly. "It's the same. I just stopped fighting with it." Goku laughed. "I wish I could do that." "You will," Gohan said softly. "Someday, when you stop trying to win and start trying to listen." The words hung between them, not as correction, but as prophecy. Goku stared for a long moment,
then smiled with that familiar brightness that could outshine despair. "Guess I still have a lot to learn from you, huh?"
They stood in silence again, gazing across the green horizon where sunlight kissed the water. For a brief, impossible instant, Goku could swear he saw hellos forming above both their heads, one mortal, one divine. Later, when the universe calmed, stories began to spread. Not about Goku, the hero who defied gods, but about the boy who stood before destruction and refused to hate. The Namekians whispered of him as the child of balance, the one whose ki healed what power had broken. Even Frieza, drifting in exile and humiliation, could not forget that stillness. In the cold vacuum of space, he dreamed of that boy's eyes, not fierce, not merciful, just infinite. It terrified him more than any fist. And in the higher realms, the Kais took notice. Whis spoke of him in passing to Beerus, sipping from his goblet. "There's a mortal child who has touched the edge of ultra instinct without realizing it." Beerus yawned. "Another Saiyan? They multiply like trouble." Whis smiled faintly. "Perhaps, but this one's trouble might save us all someday." On Earth, years later, when peace felt fragile but real, Gohan would stand again in the open field where he once trained with Piccolo. The wind would be gentle, the sky endless, and his mind clear. He would feel his father's spirit sparring with the stars, and somewhere in the void, King Kai's laughter echoing across dimensions. And he would smile, not as a warrior, not as a savior, but as a being who had learned the rarest truth of all, that power is not meant to conquer, but to understand. He closed his eyes, let the light pass through him, and whispered to the universe itself, "May every soul find the balance they've forgotten." The wind answered, soft and eternal.